We are less than 2 months away from the New York City mayoral election. And right now, the momentum continues to be with Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani. A New York Times Siena poll shows Mamdani still has a decisive lead at 46% over his main rival, Andrew Cuomo, at 24%. And with Republican Curtis Sliwa at 15% and incumbent Mayor Eric Adams at only 9%. Cuomo was on with our colleague, Reverend Al Sharpton, earlier this evening. Here's what he had to say about Mamdani.
The majority of New Yorkers do not agree with Mamdani. They are not socialists. Well, he said he was in favor of defunding the police, but he is a democratic socialist, right? He did not support Vice President Harris against Donald Trump. He did not support her because he thought that her views were not left enough. If he was a Democrat, he would have been supporting Vice President Harris against Donald Trump. He's a two-term assemblyman. He's 33 years old. Nobody knows him.
Jamal Bowman and Lee. Oh, there's already laughter. Lee McGowan, they're still here at the table with us. Okay. Jamal, I'm just going to give the floor to you. You clearly have something on your mind.
It's kind of painful to watch.
Didn't Zohran just destroy him in the Democratic primary by 16 points? What does he mean Zohran's not a Democrat? What does he mean people don't know him? He's up in the polls by double digits. He's 20-something, 22 points.
Well, that's 6 points up from how much he beat him by, so he's gaining.
He
clearly has momentum.
You know, as my mother used to say, and my aunties and my grandmother, bless his heart. Bless Cuomo's heart.
Well, at this point, he's just throwing anything to see what sticks.
He's just throwing anything, right?
You got to throw a Hail Mary at this point.
Zohran and his team, they've inspired the entire city. They're inspiring young people. People are excited about our democracy again. Very hard to do with a dictator in the White House. He's exactly what the Democratic Party has needed for a long time. Unfortunately, party leadership still doesn't understand that. Hopefully they'll come around. But, bless his heart, Mr. Cuomo, retire and allow, the new people to run the city the way it needs to be run.
Well, on party leadership, we actually know that earlier today, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen actually endorsed Zohran Mamdani. So not even part of the New York delegation. I think we have some sound from that. I want you to listen.
Many Democratic members of the Senate and House representing New York have stayed on the sidelines. That kind of spineless politics is what people are sick of. They need to get behind him and get behind him now.
Lee, what do you make of that? They need to get behind him now?
Yeah, not wholeheartedly supporting him right now is unforgivable. I mean, he got out more voters, particularly more young voters in a Democratic primary than we've seen in forever. And you can't just ignore that. They need people to be excited about the candidates again. They need people to be excited about politics again. They need people to have something to root for. This idea that we can continue the way it's always been done is not, it's not possible. We can't do it. We are this don't rock the boat energy, stick with the status quo thing. It has not worked for us. A political party is not supposed to be a for-profit corporation, which is often how the Democratic leadership treats it, that we go with the way it's always been, the way it's always been done. And we can see now, having lost the last election, that doesn't work for us anymore. And so you have this fresh new candidate come along that really excites young people. You get behind them.
Well, Lee, I found the Andrew Cuomo interview really depressing just because he's not offering anything different. He seems angry. I saw you also making a face. Just what's your interpretation of how he presented himself in that interview?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I do not think it has to be ageist to say that certain people get to an age where you're no longer representing the majority of the electorate. And you look at that interview with Cuomo and he seems like something of the past and he's just ragging on who's coming next, which we used to say in high school. But Mamdani is speaking to young people. He's speaking to working people. He's speaking to people's hearts and their wallets. He's saying things like, let's try a different way to do grocery shopping. Let's try a different way to do our buses. Let's try to have the houses you can afford. And that's what people actually need. So to say we're going to go back and do it the way we've always done it, people go, well, the way we've always done it hasn't worked for me in 20 years.
I was going to say, it's bad for Andrew Cuomo when he's visiting a mosque in New York to try to get votes. He's like, and I say that, I say that knowing that this is a guy who is representing Benjamin Netanyahu, or working with an indicted war criminal who has come out and refused to condemn the genocide that is happening in Gaza, and then really I got to go to a mosque now to try to see if I can claw back any of the votes because there's nothing left for me in the city to grab.
The Department of Justice, led by a Democratic president, found that Andrew Cuomo sexually assaulted or sexually harassed 13 women. Yeah. Okay, credibly accused of sexual harassment by 13 women to the point where he had to resign in disgrace. He put seniors into nursing homes, disproportionately killing seniors during COVID, and lied about it to get a book deal. This is who Andrew Cuomo is. He doesn't even want to run. Special interests, I think, want him to run. I think they forced him to run in this general. They put the money behind him because they're afraid of this socialist. You know what's so crazy about that? You notice he says socialist multiple times. Yeah. Is capitalism helping the American people meet the needs by paying for their affording their groceries, or affording their childcare, or affording their utilities, or affording their housing? We can't even afford to survive in New York City. So capitalism ain't working. It's not killing it right now.
It's democratic socialism. It's different than socialism. Yeah. If we're going to talk about actual socialism, it's taking over companies like Intel with the government. That's more socialist.
Zoran is not going to have the government own everything.
Yeah.
That's not what he's talking about.
Capitalism's got its problems. It's still the best system we've got going. That said,
really?
I think it shows just how low Andrew Cuomo has sunk, that Americans who have been told socialism is a dirty word and evil for decades, they would choose that, and they don't care about the label because what he represents is worse.
I don't even think people can define either one of those things. No. These are just scary words.
I actually want to ask you a question, Eamon, because you just mentioned Cuomo's visit to a mosque. And I'm curious if that tells you something about sort of a change in New York, sort of political culture, and the constituencies that politicians need to value. Because, of course, like everyone was joking about it, because he doesn't really visit mosques that often and has not been perceived by members of that community as having their back. And it didn't seem like in the first part of this race it mattered necessarily. The calculation seems to have shifted. Why do you think that is?
I think it shifted because Zoran Mamdani is running a campaign that I would argue is a bit of an insurgency. He's coming from the outside. He appealed to a lot of different people. He's unapologetically honest about his identity and who he is and who he represents and the values that he represents. And he was able to speak very clearly, very forcefully about very important issues to so many different segments of the population. His campaign is about affordability. He's not running to be the Secretary of State. He's not an international judge, but he spoke with moral clarity about a lot of things that people in this city care about. And that's why he also appealed to a lot of young Jewish voters when he speaks about what is taking place in Gaza. And when other candidates panic and they don't have the moral clarity that he has about this issue, they say, oh, how can I get some of that? What do I have to do to get some of that? And they're like, let me just go to a mosque and see if I can get a photo up in a mosque, because then I can show, hey, I'm standing here in a mosque. I'm trying to appeal to these people. And I think that is the sinister part of our politics, that if you don't listen to these constituents and you ignore them for decades, you don't meet with them, you don't speak to them, you don't represent them, and then you need them in a vote, so you're now just going down there to get that photo up. I think it probably is going to backfire against Andrew Cuomo with Muslim voters in New York.
Well, he was already just going to do so well with against there's that.
That's
exactly.
Voters now, they recognize authenticity. It's one of the reasons that Trump did so well.
Exactly.
He's not fixed in a lab. He's not a politician, right? And that's why people were like, oh, he talks the way I talk, and I love that. Mamdani has created a completely different way of doing politics, and we're not familiar with it yet, but he's offering something that hasn't been offered. Why not try it? Yeah. That's why I think it's unfortunate that the Democratic leadership isn't just wholeheartedly behind him, saying, look, let's try it.
I know we got to go, but I was just going to add to that moment in the debate, again, when he was asked, where would you go overseas on your first visit? And everybody said, without skipping a beat, Israel. And Mamdani said, I'm going to stay right here in New York. I think that contrast is just a contrast that hits so hard with New Yorkers. And I don't think any of the other candidates are going to be able to recover from that moment. I mean, that was obviously in the primary, but they're not going to be able to recover from that, visiting a mosque or not.
Well, at plus 22 in the New York Times Siena poll,
right, exactly.
I would say that's a fairly safe bet that he's in a good position.